Hi guys, I'm James McIntosh and today I'm joined with Football Operations Manager Mark Summerhill, looking at the start of this season, looking at some new games this season and even looking at some new transfer news. Mark, I think it's only good we start at our last game against Winchester yesterday. Yes, it was a 2-0 defeat, but we did play a pretty young team. And in the grand scheme of things, I mean, let's be real, it's not the end of the world being knocked out in the Hampshire Senior Cup. Just means we can focus more on league and the FA Cup now.
Yeah, I think it was an excellent exercise. We had, I think it was 9 of the under-18s. And, it was a fantastic opportunity for them to play against, Winchester made changes, but all the changes Winchester made were sort of their first team squad players. I think they only had 2 younger ones in. So it was a really competitive Winchester side that our young lads came up again. I think we had a couple of lads that just needed some minutes. But yeah, pick a team with sort of 9 under-18s in, and let's be really honest, anyone that was watching the game, we had by far the better chances. Jacob Pope had a really good chance when Harry Lee squared one across the goal early on, and that was pretty much the theme. I think we had the better chances in the first half for sure, but Winchester had that little bit of experience and were a little bit more clinical at key times. In the second half, we had good chances again. But sort of failed to capitalise really, and that was a bit of the theme of the game. We played some really nice stuff. We created some really, really good chances, but we just didn't probably have the experience out there on the night to finish the game, and Winchester did. But a fantastic opportunity for our young lads to get exposed to that level of football. So a really, really good positive exercise.
Well, you said it yourself there. I mean, the players, they were outstanding, considering that a lot of them are from our under-18s team. And you said it there, Winchester. I mean, they were playing a lot of their first team players. So, and Lambo, I remember when he was playing against our first team last season, and he was brilliant down the wings. But like you were also saying, we did have some brilliant opportunities. And I would imagine a lot of these young players we will be seeing in more cup games like the Ross Hill Coast, and maybe even the league like Ethan Jones.
Yeah, it's was something we're very proud of here. How well the youth system is set up. That's credit to Zach and credit to the players. They progressed well in the FA Youth Cup, which is a sign of how well the club's doing. With another FA Youth Cup game coming up at home, a third tie at home. But yeah, if we didn't have the confidence in these lads, then we wouldn't use them. And especially on a night like last night, and like you just said, Russell Coates, Portsmouth Senior Cup. We're not disrespecting the competitions, but we have to be sensible with what our priorities are. We played Saturday in a tough game against Tiverton. This Saturday we've got a really tough FA Cup game against Gloucester, followed again by the Wednesday at Dorch. Then we've got the long trip to Merthyr the Saturday after. So we have to be sensible with how we manage players and how we manage players' minutes. So like I keep saying, an excellent opportunity to give our younger players a go last night.
And then games, they're coming thick and fast. And I can't believe we're already nearly 8 games into this season. And Mark, what have you made of the opening start to the season so far?
Yeah, I mean, we can't hide from the fact we didn't start how we wanted to start. That's just being honest. We had a really good season last season. We felt we had a good pre-season. We were confident going into it. We felt we strengthened in the key areas. And then, really, if you look at the Frome game, we had some really, really good chances. Dan Rowe had a really good chance. Asa Yearwood had a really good chance. 3 good chances in the first half, didn't take them. Second half, was inexplainable. I think I said that before. And then Frome caught us late. We go to Hungerford, start the game really well, really busy, and we find ourselves a goal down. We get a second goal down, we get back into it, and then we sort of fall apart, uncharacteristic really. And then a good sort out, sort of behind the scenes, and get back to basics, get back to what we're good at, and we sort of started pulling results around. We got a draw against Basingstoke, a draw against Shoalin, obviously the win against Winchester, which was really important, to sort of kickstart things off, and then obviously the Andover New Street game, and we've been on a good run really. So that we were obviously concerned by losing the first 2 games. There's no two ways about it. But there was never any panic. There was enough signs of good stuff to come, but it was just a question of getting that good stuff out. And as I've said before, I repeat the term, people are bored of it, but Pat and Joe are exceptional coaches, and another situation they've coached us out of really, really well.
Well, Mark, I think you answered like five of my next questions there. But one of the big points I did want to talk about there was you mentioned about the first two games in particular, how it wasn't a great start whatsoever. And do you feel like that was a big product of it was almost like our success? It was a big downfall of that. Because last season, let's be real, nobody really expected it. We were winning games like pretty much loads of games, and that's what ultimately got us into the playoffs. I mean, even look at this season in pre-season. I'm pretty sure we only lost one game, that being to Portsmouth. And do you think it's mainly because fans had such high expectations of going into this season and then losing these two first games? That was such a big shock when in reality, anybody could have lost those first two games. Frome being an underdog who nobody really, you never knew what you were going to get. And the second one against Hungerford, they had just lost their first two games and they had something really to prove, especially being at home as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really difficult question, James, because sometimes in football things don't go as you expect, and we know you can be on top in games for long periods and not win them. We've learnt that loads of times. We know you can be well out of games and still win them. Like I said, the start wasn't what we expected. You can't put your finger on it really all the time. You're dealing with human beings at the end of the day, and you can pick teams on paper. The game's not played out on paper. The game's played by humans that can make mistakes, and and that happened, and that happened at bad times, and we didn't start well. But like I said, there was enough positive signs. No need to panic. We've got good players. We still believe that we got good players. We still believe that we'd strengthened in the right areas, and it was just a question of getting it right. And maybe it took us a tiny bit longer to gel than in competitive games, but very quickly we went to sort of 5 games unbeaten. So hopefully the first 2 are just learning experiences now and sort of distant memories.
And you also said about Pat and Joe, they're exceptional coaches. And I think it really proved after the first two games. So I remember, I think it was after the Hungerford fan. So we did have a few fans just calling out some of the players, some of the management team. And I would imagine this is the first time in, well, all of your careers really, where you've actually been called out a little bit. Because at Petersfield, you were phenomenal. Gosport last season, you were phenomenal. But I felt like the lads, they've all done really well with some of the bad pressure that they have received. And I think they've really just I don't know, really. They've avoided a lot of bad opinions, I suppose. And in the end, we've just used that as almost motivation for going forward.
Yeah, I think fans are entitled to their opinion. Fans pay good money to watch us home and away, and they watch us in good numbers. I think it's a minority. We're very, very well supported here. Try and speak to as many people as possible after the game. It's not always possible because there's lots to do. But even at Hungerford, which was probably a really low point for us, there was still some encouraging words from people that come to watch us. They were still looking forward to the next game. They genuinely believe in us, in Pat and Joe, in the club and the players, and they genuinely get behind us. So it's not the first time in my career I've been abused by people. I can tell you that I've had lots of that over the sort of 10 years of managing different clubs. But I think I get it. You don't work all day or work all week to then travel to Hungerford to watch what was a pretty poor display after being beaten by Frome. So I totally understand it. I think people can get frustrated. They're just as passionate as we are. They love the club, and actually they can come, they can sing, they can get behind us like they do. But I guess it's frustrating when you're not in control of it. And even from the sidelines, when not once the players cross that line, there's only so much adjusting and coaching you can do. So I think people, perfectly entitled to have their opinion. You can't just take people's opinions when you're doing well. You have to take people's opinions when you're not doing quite so well. But on the whole, the Gosport fans are absolutely brilliant and have been a massive support. And again, everyone's pulling in the right direction very, very quickly.
Well, I think Pat and Joe and you all showed what you were made of, and the draw, particularly against Basingstoke. I think we did win the week before against Winchester 2-0. But for me, the real turning point was that Basingstoke game where we were 3 goals behind, managed to claw 3 goals back within the last 15 minutes, I want to say. But it showed a real characteristic from the boys and just this real energy, this real fight. And those sorts of games last season, we might not have got a point from. But it was good to see this sort of fight. And I mean, in the first 2 games, it looked like the team didn't have any real chemistry. But from that moment onwards, it looks like it's going from strength to strength involved in the team building and all the team energy.
Yeah, it's easy to get confused, isn't it? Because we beat Winchester at Basingstoke, and then we had Basingstoke here in the draw, so it's easy to get confused. But yeah, I mean the Winchester win was probably the big win, having to play on a Sunday. At Basingstoke on the back of those results, that was a really really good win. Max made a great penalty save at the end to keep a clean sheet. But those sort of traits are just starting to come back. Again Saturday, good home win, another clean sheet. We had a very very good defensive record last year, so that was a bit of a worry when you're 2 games in. You conceded against Frome and been well beaten at Hungerford, but we're getting back to those sort of Gosport traits now, that defending well, playing good at attacking, exciting football, and putting on a show for the fans.
And you said it about there, we're starting to get our old gospel back. And when doing a recent post-match interview with Pat and Joe, particularly after the Andover New Street game, I remember them saying it's almost like we've started to find our form again now. And do you put that down to the team starting to gel more?
Yeah, I think it's like any team, pre-season is pre-season. We spend a lot of time on the training pitch. We spend a lot of time playing pre-season games. Can you replicate a cut and thrust league and cut games? Probably not. And yes, we kept a large number of the group, but yeah, we obviously brought players in. That's clear to see. And did it take time to gel? Probably. Yeah. But like I said, you're dealing with human beings. Football's not an exact science. Pitches, weather, referees' decisions, mistakes, bobbles, bounces can all lead to an interesting game at times, and you don't always get the result you expect you're going to get on paper.
And then I would imagine one of the big products of our recent success, it was one man in particular, Alfie Stanley. I mean, what a play he's really shaping out to be. We were talking about it last week. I mean, probably one of the biggest reasons why he didn't really deliver the same levels as what we saw to what he's doing this season, because he wasn't really getting too much game time last season, as we had the likes of Rafa. He was with AFC Tottenham and he was sitting on the bench. But now he's getting in the squad, I suppose, a lot more now. He's really shaping out to be this incredible striker.
Yeah, we really like Alf. We really liked him last season. But, Alf wasn't just sat on the bench last season. When we played AFC Tottenham, Alf was sat in the stand watching. And, that's not good for anyone. And then, he came to us last season and we were sort of fairly settled by the time he came. But again, we could see enough out of him to realise Alfie is a really, really good player. And, a really lively, bright forward who is an exceptional finisher. We've seen that in training, obviously. People don't have the luxury of watching training, but we've seen that from last season. He was one of the first people who were really keen to recapture and sign this season. So really really pleased Alfie's finding the back of net like he is for obvious reasons. But Alf's a great guy, trains hard, works really hard. He's one of the good guys. So really really pleased that he started well and no surprise to us. I just hope he continues.
Well, I mean, our attacking force this season, it's been unreal. And it's probably a reason why Dan Rowe has unfortunately left the club. I remember seeing some post matches from Pat Joe, and they were saying they think he's a brilliant player and he could have done a lot for the club, but he does want to be this out and out striker that is playing every game. And I suppose this is a big reason why he's left. But are we now looking at bringing in new players that can fill that gap? I know we've brought in Fanian and he's starting to be that player who does come on for Stanley and Wooden. But are we looking at bringing in any more strikers in replacement of Dan?
Yes, so Dan's obviously left. And personally take this opportunity to, on behalf of myself and the club to wish Dan well wherever he sort of flies his trade next. Dan was a great guy. There was no real issues with Dan. He struggled with the long commute. He's not a local lad, and sometimes people just don't settle. So it was decided by both parties to let Dan go. Obviously, that's prompted a little bit of movement. Pat and Joe were working really hard on a couple of bits and pieces. I think there'll probably be a new face around on Saturday. We're working really hard to get that across the line. It would be unfair to talk about that, to name that person now, because obviously paperwork's got to go through, and we're trying to rush that through for Saturday. So that'll be one. There's also, we're working very hard on a second one who we're hoping to get done next week. Again, it would be really, really unfair to name him just in case things don't work out, but someone that's been at the club before. So we're sort of one out and potentially two in very, very quickly. I don't need to sort of, I'm not deliberately doing cloak and dagger, but it's unfair to talk about these things until we've got signatures on papers. We've been bitten with that before. We were bitten last season when we announced someone before we had signatures. So we're just processing some bits and pieces now to get one hopefully in by Saturday, and then one next week as well. So hopefully there'll be some exciting news for the Borough fans this weekend, and like I said, moving into next week as well.
Well, as you said, Mark, there, I think you've made some Gosport fans very excited there. So good news all around. And then finally, we got Gloucester City this Saturday at home. And this is going to be a massive game for the club. Yes, Gloucester, they're a team that is, I think they're full-time football as well. So it's going to be a big challenge. But albeit it is a challenge that we can definitely win, be it there in our league.
Yeah, I mean, Gloucester City, make of a draw what you want. Is that a good draw or a bad draw? I'm not really sure. But, they're sitting third in the table. They were relegated from National South last year. Had we drawn them last year, we'd all be talking about being massive underdogs against the National South side. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough fixture. Like I said, they've started well. They're third in the league. They've got a lot of national South experience. And obviously, they're looking to get straight out of this league. And I've got no doubt they'll be looking for an FA Cup run to probably help fund themselves get out of this league. So, they're a big side, a traditional non-league side, Gloucester City. So, we're expecting a really, really tough game. That doesn't mean that we are, expecting to get beat. Certainly not, because we want to be a match for anyone in this league. Personally, I never like having teams from our own league in cup games. It's always nice to play someone different. Doesn't feel like that league game. You're not testing each other out for a league game. But I've got no doubt, the rewards that come with the FA Cup, and we're second qualifying round. Can we get through this? Potentially one more, then you're getting close to a first round proper tie. So, the FA Cup is a real motivation for all teams at this level, and certainly for us. And I've got no doubt, certainly for them. Hopefully being at home, hopefully we'll get a good crowd. I guess it's a good draw in that respect. Someone we haven't played last season, obviously, because of their relegation, so a new team for people to watch. Hopefully we'll put on a good display on Saturday, but it could be a really exciting FA Cup tie.
Well, like you said, Mark, there, it's going to be a brilliant tie for guaranteed. So Gosport fans, make sure to come along Saturday, get all your tickets and come and cheer on the boys. But Mark, for the final words, can we get the up the borough?
Up the Borough.
Up the borough.